The Los Angeles Chargers pick up the win on Sunday Night Football over the Cincinnati Bengals 34-27, and the Cincinnati Bengals out-charger the Chargers. Yes, both teams tried their hardest to give this game away in the waning moments, but ultimately it was the Bengals, after back-to-back missed field goals, that found themselves on the losing end of another very close game. We're going to dive into the game itself and talk about both of these teams' futures in this video. I want to start with the Los Angeles Chargers because I think this is just more a theme of their full season, but in prime time, Sunday Night Football, Herbert versus Burrow, we saw it on full display. Justin Herbert is a top 6 quarterback in this league in terms of talent, but now in terms of what he's producing. Going into this season, my main thought was, I know he doesn't have the best weapons, but they drafted a rookie wide receiver who could have gone in the first round. They have a good run game. There's okay options. We've seen Patrick Mahomes lead wide receiver cores of Kadarius Toney and MVS to the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert with Jim Harbaugh and a great defense behind a defensive mind in Jesse Minter, but also players like Bosa and Mack, even though he didn't play tonight, and Derwin James. Like Justin Herbert, if he is that top 5, 6, 7 guy that everybody says he is, he should be able to make a playoff run with this roster. And now a 91% shot at making the playoffs for the Chargers, as they are 7-3. And he is kind of proving to me, to the world, to anybody that was doubting him, yeah, I am that damn god. I am that damn good, excuse me. I am that fucking guy. I am an absolute beast. I'm a dog. And he did it tonight, man. 17-36, a little not great on the completion percentage, but almost 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, a 94.3 passer rating. He gave you 65 on the ground too, so 350 plus overall yards for Justin Herbert. There were some drops, there was some balls that went through the hands. Ultimately, he was valiant, he fought, and he went out there and showed to me that he does belong in that conversation with Joe Burrow of who's better. And we can have that debate another time in the comment section, because Joe Burrow, obviously his coaching staff and defense are worse, but he's got weapons like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase that Justin Herbert doesn't. And there's a whole rabbit hole we could dive into there. But focusing on this game, I thought Justin Herbert was really, really good, obviously, especially in the first half, using his legs, extending plays, picking up first downs. I thought the zip and spin on his ball was better than Burrow's tonight. Like, Herbert was throwing a much more beautiful ball, and, we really saw it again at the end there, those 2 catches to McConkey. I mean, listen, we knew that the Chargers needed a wide receiver, and the kind of constant debate pre-draft was, did they take Malik Neighbors and then take an offensive tackle later because it's a loaded wide receiver and loaded offensive tackle class? Ultimately, Jim Harbaugh said, hey, Joe Alt might be this, future Hall of Famer, Pro Bowl level tackle. We're taking him for sure. There's a lot of talent at the wide receiver pool. They pass on Neighbors and end up getting a McConkey later in the draft, who obviously, like a lot of rookies, especially in the second round, started off a little slower, but he's really coming to his own. He is the true wide receiver 1 on this team. And when they needed him most, he produced tonight. McConkey, 6 for 123 in this game. A lot of that coming in the second half. Big production on that final drive that led to the J.K. Dobbins touchdown for the Chargers to go on and win this game. And when you look at the Chargers team as a whole, this is a winning culture. And I thought it was going to take maybe a year or 2 to get there. And I still think that they're probably another weapon away from being in a Super Bowl level conversation, but they are not a team you want to face in the playoffs, man. This is, they're going to be a wild card team because Kansas City probably still holds on to this division. It's still pretty unlikely, but man, if I'm Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, like, this is the last fucking team that I want to see come into my building for the playoffs. They have a top 6 quarterback. They have a top 10 coach. They have a really strong elite defense. Going into this game, they were averaging just 12 points per game given up to opposing teams. Like, they can get a pass rush at you. Mack and Bosa, when they're both healthy, are a really dangerous duo. Like, this is the last team I want to face if I am one of those top seeds hosting a playoff game. The 1 seed bye is starting to become really valuable in the AFC because these teams that are getting into the wild card spot, the Chargers, the Broncos, and even the Bengals to an extent, if they're that 7 seed, like they're all dangerous. They can certainly upset on any given day. And the Chargers, hats off to them. They tried to give it away. They almost give it away. I can only imagine being a fan of both of these teams. It was just a constant heart attack, but congrats to the Chargers. Now for the Bengals side of things, Joe Burrow, man, you got to feel for the guy. You got to feel for the guy. 28 of 50, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 98.4 passer rating. Set up his kicker twice to kick go-ahead field goals. Shanked them left both times. Was getting just absolutely beat up all night. I'm shocked he was only sacked 3 times. It felt like he was just getting hit every fucking play out there, man. Like, this was really tough to watch. Burrow, obviously, he wasn't perfect. Like I mentioned, I thought Herbert threw a more crisp ball tonight, tighter spiral on it, but Burrow, his escapability, breaking sacks in the second half, to have the willpower, the resiliency. You know, he was down 27-6 at a certain point, came back all the way and tied this game up. Him, Higgins, and Chase, man, that trio, they can upset anybody on any given day when they're at their best. But the problem with the Bengals is this team can't make mistakes. This team has to be perfect. And if they're not on their A game, they're not playing perfect football, they get got. If Burrow has a bad quarter, that could be the whole game. And it sucks because you're just kind of walking on pins and needles the whole time. Justin Herbert with that really good defense behind him. Patrick Mahomes with that really good defense behind him. They don't need to be on their A game as quarterbacks each and every play, each and every set of downs, each and every drive, each and every quarter. Joe Burrow this season has been fucking excellent, man. He's been absolutely excellent. And his team is 4-7. He's been in tons of close games, battled and willed his way into spots where his team could win games, and they just haven't. And on one hand, I feel for Burrow. On the other hand, the Bengals only have themselves to thank. Starting this year off 1-3 with losses to the Patriots and teams of that likeness, that's inexcusable. The Bengals after tonight should have been 6-5 or 7-4, not 4-7, one loss away from potentially, being SOL when it comes to the playoffs, because you're going to have either Pittsburgh or Baltimore as a wild card team. The Chargers now kind of cemented themselves in that spot, and Denver's got a pretty solid lead on Cincinnati at this point. They play in a couple weeks and that could swing things, but Cincinnati's in danger of missing the playoffs. And I'll tell you what, they missed the playoffs. T. Higgins likely going to get a bag somewhere else. They're going to get worse personnel-wise. They're going to have no choice but to fire Zach Taylor. He's the worst coach in the division. Tomlin's better. Stefanski won Coach of the Year last year. Harbaugh's better. Like, it's just tough to compete when you have the worst coach in the division. The Bengals are going to have to move past him. The defense has been dreadful. They had spurts tonight where they played decent. Some of that's just kind of the Chargers shooting themselves in the foot and not having the weaponry that some of these upper echelon teams have. They don't have an Amari Cooper like the Bills. They don't have a Travis Kelce like the Chiefs. There is no Derrick Henry like the Ravens. This is Justin Herbert and a lot of guys who kind of couldn't get back onto their rosters, plus a small slot wide receiver out of Georgia who's turning into one hell of a player, but that's kind of what they're working with on offense. 34 points out of that group, that's pretty impressive. It's not going to happen every week, and it doesn't need to for the Chargers to be successful, but for the Bengals, man, they're constantly in spots each and every week with that defense where Joe Burrow has to go put up 35 points for them to have a shot at winning the freaking game. I mean, it's an absolute disaster for the Cincinnati Bengals. And they're either going to go on a historic run here, or you're going to see a lot of turnover this offseason. You got to pay Chase. You paid Burrow, and that's a great core to build around. But the coaching staff's probably going to be flipped. A lot of the players are going to be flipped. There's going to be a new identity on this team. And there's going to be a real long look in the mirror of why under Zach Taylor was this team not ready to go consistently at the start of seasons. And why is it continuously, one, costed them playoff seeding in previous years, Remember when they had to go to Buffalo a couple years ago? They won, but they didn't have to be in that spot. And this year, it may have cost them so bad in a much improved competitive AFC that they just missed the whole fucking playoffs to begin with. Bengals, Joe Burrow, I give virtually none of the blame because he has to be Superman each and every week. T. Higgins comes back, 9 for 148 and a touchdown. When he's out there, he produces. Jamar Chase, 7 for 75 and 2 tubs. Chase Brown, 86 rushing yards, 57 receiving yards. Like, they got some good pieces, but outside of the skill position guys and the quarterback, it's what does this team have? Not a lot. Not a lot indeed. But that's where I'm at, man. I want to real quick take a look at the Bengals schedule here rest of the way versus Steelers. That doesn't exactly feel like a win. At Cowboys should be a win. At Titans should be a win. Versus Browns should be a win. Versus Broncos, man, in week 17. We'll see where we're at come there. But, that could be the game that determines who gets in, who gets out. The Chargers beating the Bengals tonight, 7-3, 91% shot to make the playoffs now. Congratulations to them. As always, be sure to leave your thoughts on this game in the comment section down below. This is the first video on this new channel that I started, but I have been making NFL content for a while. If you're new to me, appreciate it. I love the NFL. Hit that subscribe button. If you came over from the previous channel, appreciate you. Hit the like button. Drop your thoughts on this game in the comment section down below. Tomorrow, I will hit you guys with my full week 11 reactions to every single game. That'll be out around 4 o'clock Eastern on this channel. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I'll get you next time. Peace.